Welcome back to the Think and Speak podcast, where we help you think in English and speak naturally. Daniel, today's topic is powerful. So many learners translate in their heads. Why is that such a big problem?
Because translation slows you down, Emma. If you think in your native language first, you'll always hesitate. But when you think directly in English, your speech becomes faster, smoother, and more confident.
That's exactly what our viewers want. Confidence. Today we'll show you how to move from beginner to fluent by changing the way you think.
And we'll give practical examples, modern phrases, and grammar tips you can use immediately.
If you've ever said, "I understand English but I can't speak," this lesson is for you.
Stay with us until the end. These techniques can completely transform your English.
And before we begin, like this video and comment below. What stops you from speaking English confidently?
Let's train your brain to think in English, starting now.
Daniel, many beginners say they know basic grammar and vocabulary, but when they try to speak, they freeze. They translate every sentence from their native language into English, and that creates hesitation and fear. Why does this happen from a cognitive perspective? Is it a vocabulary issue, a grammar issue, or something deeper? And more importantly, how can beginners start thinking in English from day one, even if their vocabulary is limited? Could you explain practical techniques that learners can apply immediately? Also, how does sentence structure affect fluency? For example, English word order is usually subject plus verb plus object. Does mastering this structure help learners think faster? Finally, can you give specific examples of how a beginner can change their mental habits and stop translating word by word? Many learners believe thinking in English is only possible at an advanced level. Is that true, or is it a myth?
Excellent question, Emma. This problem is not just about vocabulary or grammar. It's about mental processing. When learners translate, they use a two-step cognitive process. First, they form the idea in their native language. Second, they convert it into English. That double processing causes hesitation. Fluency requires automaticity. In linguistics, we call this procedural knowledge instead of declarative knowledge. Declarative knowledge means you know the rule. For example, you know that English uses subject plus verb plus object, I drink coffee. Procedural knowledge means you use it automatically without thinking about the rule. Beginners can start thinking in English immediately by simplifying their thoughts. Instead of thinking complex sentences like, I would have gone to the store if I had known it was open, start with simple present tense structures. I go to the store. I need milk. I like coffee. Use short, direct sentences. Another powerful technique is labeling your environment. Look around and say, this is a chair. The window is open. My phone is on the table. This trains your brain to connect objects directly with English words, bypassing translation. Word order is extremely important. English depends heavily on structure. For example, incorrect translation thinking, to the store I yesterday went. Natural English thinking, I went to the store yesterday. Mastering fixed sentence patterns builds speed. Practice chunks, not single words. For example, I'm looking for. I'm trying to. I'm thinking about. These are called collocations and sentence frames. They reduce mental effort. Another method is internal monologue. Describe your actions. I'm walking to work. I'm checking my email. Use the present continuous tense, am/is/ are plus verb plus ing, to narrate your life. This builds real-time thinking skills. The belief that thinking in English is only for advanced learners is a myth. In fact, beginners benefit the most. The key is to reduce complexity, increase repetition, and use high-frequency vocabulary. Stop asking, how do I say this in English? Instead ask, how can I express this idea simply? That shift changes everything. Fluency is not about speaking perfectly. It's about thinking directly.
Daniel, let's talk about vocabulary. Many learners try to memorize long word lists. They study rare words, academic expressions, and complicated synonyms, yet they still struggle in daily conversations. Why does this happen? Is memorizing vocabulary in isolation ineffective? How should learners study vocabulary in a modern, practical way? Also, could you explain the importance of collocations and chunks in sounding natural? For example, we say, make a decision, but do homework. Why is learning these combinations essential? Furthermore, how does context influence memory? Should learners study vocabulary through stories, dialogues, or real-life situations? Finally, what role does active recall play in moving vocabulary from passive knowledge to active speaking ability? Please give examples and explain how learners can apply these strategies step by step in their daily practice.
This is one of the biggest mistakes learners make, Emma. Memorizing isolated vocabulary creates passive knowledge, not active fluency. You might recognize the word nevertheless, but do you actually use it in conversation? Probably not. Language works in patterns. That's why collocations are essential. A collocation is a natural combination of words. For example, make a mistake, not do a mistake. Take a break. Have a conversation. These combinations are fixed. If you translate directly, you may produce unnatural phrases. Instead of memorizing the word decision, learn the chunk, make a decision. Instead of effort, learn, make an effort. Your brain stores language more efficiently in chunks. This reduces cognitive load and increases fluency. Context also strengthens memory. According to cognitive science, meaningful association improves retention. For example, instead of memorizing the word exhausted, create a sentence, I was exhausted after working all day. Even better, connect it to your life, I'm exhausted after the gym. Personal relevance improves long-term memory. Use the spaced repetition method. Review vocabulary after 1 day, 3 days, and 1 week. This strengthens neural connections. Active recall is critical. Instead of rereading a word list, close your notebook and ask, how do I say this? For example, think, what's the phrase for stopping work temporarily? Answer, take a break. This retrieval process builds active memory. Use micro-dialogues. A. Why are you tired? B. I didn't get enough sleep. Now you practice pronunciation, grammar, past simple, didn't plus base verb, and vocabulary together. Modern learners should focus on frequency. The top 2,000 English words cover most daily conversations. Master high-frequency verbs like get, make, take, have, go. These verbs combine with many expressions. Get ready, get married, make money, take responsibility. Vocabulary is not about quantity. It's about usability. Study less. Use more. That is the modern approach to fluency.
Daniel, let's move to speaking confidence. Many learners understand grammar rules like the present perfect, past simple, or conditionals. They can complete exercises perfectly. However, when they speak, they hesitate, overthink, and worry about making mistakes. Why does this gap exist between knowing grammar and using grammar naturally in conversation? Is perfectionism one of the reasons learners struggle to speak fluently? Also, how can learners practice grammar in a way that improves spontaneous speaking instead of just test performance? Could you explain how repetition, sentence transformation, and real-life simulation help build fluency? For example, how can someone practice the present perfect in a practical modern context? And finally, what mindset shift is necessary for learners to move from I must be correct to I must communicate? Please give structured advice with examples, grammar explanations, and speaking strategies our viewers can apply immediately.
This gap exists because grammar exercises build accuracy, but fluency requires speed and flexibility. When students complete fill-in-the-blank exercises, they have time to think. In real conversation, there is no pause button. Your brain must retrieve structures instantly. Perfectionism is a major obstacle. Many learners think, if my grammar isn't perfect, I shouldn't speak. But communication is about clarity, not perfection. Even native speakers make grammatical slips. Fluency grows through use, not silence. Let's take the present perfect as an example. The structure is subject plus have slash has plus past participle. Example, I have finished. She has traveled. In textbooks, Learners write sentences like, I have visited Paris. That's correct, but it becomes powerful only when connected to real life. Try repetition with variation. I have started learning English. I have practiced for 2 years. I have improved my pronunciation. Now add time expressions commonly used with present perfect. Already, yet, ever, never, for, since. For example, I have already watched that movie. I haven't finished yet. I have lived here for 5 years. I have studied English since 2022. Next, use sentence transformation. Change tense and meaning. Present perfect, I have lost my keys. Past simple, I lost my keys yesterday. This helps learners understand usage differences. The present perfect connects past actions to the present result. The past simple focuses on finished time. Real-life simulation is powerful. Ask yourself daily questions. What have I accomplished today? What have I learned this week? Have I tried something new recently? Answer aloud. This builds automatic grammar recall. Another technique is the 30-second rule. Choose one grammar structure and speak continuously for 30 seconds using it. For example, speak only in the past simple about yesterday. I woke up at 7. I checked my phone. I had coffee. I went to work. This builds fluency through constraint. The mindset shift is simple. Replace I must avoid mistakes with I must express ideas. Communication is successful if your listener understands you. Grammar supports speech. It should not control it. Confidence grows from action, not preparation.
Daniel, for our final question today, let's discuss daily habits. Many learners feel motivated after watching lessons, but they struggle with consistency. What are the most effective daily routines for moving from beginner to fluent English? How much time should someone study each day? Is it better to study for one long hour or several short sessions? Also, how important is speaking practice compared to listening and reading? Can someone become fluent by only consuming content like podcasts and videos? Furthermore, what role does shadowing play in pronunciation and rhythm? Could you explain how learners can design a simple but powerful 30-day fluency plan? Please include structured steps, practical examples, and explain how combining input, listening/reading, with output, speaking/writing, accelerates progress.
Consistency is more important than intensity. Studying 10 minutes every day is better than studying 2 hours once a week. Language learning depends on repetition and exposure. From a cognitive perspective, short daily sessions improve long-term retention because they strengthen neural pathways gradually. This is called distributed practice. An effective daily routine should include both input and output. Input means listening and reading. For example, listen to a 5-minute podcast segment. Read a short article or dialogue. Notice useful phrases and collocations. Output means speaking and writing. Without output, fluency cannot develop. You cannot become a confident speaker by only consuming content. That creates passive understanding. A balanced 30-minute daily routine could look like this. 10 minutes listening. Choose natural English content. Focus on pronunciation, stress, and intonation. 5 minutes shadowing. Shadowing means listening and repeating immediately after the speaker. This improves connected speech, rhythm, and word stress. For example, repeat. I'm gonna go. Notice informal spoken form of going to. 10 minutes speaking. Summarize what you heard. Use phrases like, the main idea is. One important point is. This practices discourse markers and structured speech. 5 minutes review. Review vocabulary using active recall. Ask yourself, how do I say this idea clearly? Over 30 days, focus on themes. Week 1, daily life vocabulary, present simple. Week 2, past experiences, past simple and present perfect. Week 3, future plans, will versus going to. Week 4, opinions and conditionals, if I had more time, I would. Also practice pronunciation features like linking sounds. For example, next week sounds like next week. Want to becomes wanna. Fluency develops when grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation, and confidence grow together. The formula is simple. Daily input plus daily output plus repetition plus patience. Think in English. Speak every day. Fluency is built, not gifted.
Daniel, many learners say they understand English when they read slowly, but when native speakers talk at natural speed, everything sounds too fast and unclear. They complain about connected speech, reduced sounds, and informal expressions like gonna, wanna, or gotta. Why does spoken English feel so different from written English? Is this mainly a pronunciation issue, a listening issue, or both? Could you explain the concept of connected speech and why native speakers link words together? For example, phrases like "what do you want?" often sound like "what do you want?" How can learners train their ears to recognize these patterns without feeling overwhelmed? Also, what practical exercises can help improve listening comprehension in a modern way using podcasts, YouTube, or short-form content? Finally, how does improving listening automatically improve speaking ability? Please explain clearly with examples, pronunciation tips, and structured strategies our viewers can apply daily.
Excellent question, Emma. Spoken English feels fast because it is not pronounced word by word. It is pronounced in sound groups. This feature is called connected speech. Native speakers naturally link, reduce, or even delete sounds to maintain rhythm and efficiency. For example, "what do you want?" becomes "what do you want?" Going to becomes gonna. Want to becomes wanna. Did you becomes didya. This is not incorrect English. It is natural spoken English. There are three main features involved. Linking. When one word ends with a consonant and the next begins with a vowel, they connect. Example, turn off sounds like turn off. Reduction. Function words, to, of, for, a, n, are often pronounced with a weak schwa sound. Example, a cup of tea sounds like a cup tea. Assimilation. Sounds change because of neighboring sounds. Example, don't you becomes don'tcha. Learners struggle because textbooks focus on clear, isolated pronunciation. Real speech is fluid. To train your ear, use focused listening. Choose a 1-minute audio clip. First, listen without subtitles. Second, listen with subtitles. Third, shadow the speaker. Repeat immediately after them. This builds phonological awareness. Use micro-repetition. Replay one sentence 5 times. Notice stress. English is stress-timed, meaning important words, nouns, verbs, adjectives, are stressed. Grammar words are usually weak. Improving listening improves speaking because pronunciation is imitation-based. You cannot produce sounds you cannot recognize. When your brain becomes familiar with rhythm and reduction, your speech becomes more natural automatically. Daily practice. 10 minutes of active listening plus 5 minutes of shadowing. Focus on sound, not just meaning. Fluency is not only grammar. It is rhythm, stress, and connection. Train your ears, and your mouth will follow.
Daniel, our final question today is about mindset and identity. Many learners say, "I'm not good at languages," or "I'm too old to become fluent." These limiting beliefs stop them before they even try. How important is identity in language learning? Does seeing yourself as a person who speaks English influence your progress? Also, how can learners build confidence even when they make mistakes? Is it helpful to deliberately practice speaking imperfectly? Furthermore, could you explain how positive self-talk and goal setting improve consistency? For example, instead of saying, "My English is bad," what should learners say? Finally, what practical daily affirmations or habits can help someone transition from beginner to confident speaker? Please give structured advice, psychological insight, and practical examples our viewers can apply starting today.
Mindset is foundational, Emma. Language learning is not only a cognitive process, it is also psychological. If you constantly repeat, "I'm bad at English," your brain treats that statement as truth. This is called a self-fulfilling prophecy. Identity shapes behavior. If you identify as someone trying to learn English, you act cautiously. If you identify as an English speaker in progress, you act differently. You speak more. You take risks. The grammar here is interesting. Notice the difference. I can't speak English. Present simple, permanent belief. I'm learning to speak English. Present continuous, ongoing growth. The tense changes the meaning and your mindset. Confidence does not come from perfection. It comes from repeated action. In fact, deliberate imperfect practice is powerful. Speak even if your sentence is simple. Incorrect but communicative. Yesterday I go store. Improved. Yesterday I went to the store. Mistakes are feedback, not failure. Replace negative self-talk with growth language. Instead of, my pronunciation is terrible, say, my pronunciation is improving with practice. Instead of, I always forget words, say, I'm expanding my vocabulary every day. Set micro goals. For example, today I will learn 5 useful phrases. Today I will speak for 3 minutes without stopping. This week I will record myself twice. Recording yourself is powerful. It builds self-awareness and tracks progress. Use daily affirmations connected to action. I think in English every day. I speak even if I make mistakes. I am becoming more fluent. From a psychological perspective, repetition builds neural confidence. The brain adapts to repeated exposure. The more you speak, the less fear you feel. Fluency is not talent. It is identity plus habit. Decide today, you are not bad at English. You are an English speaker developing skill. And development is progress.